Beloved, when God is preparing to release something extraordinary into your life, the very first sign you will often encounter is a divine stirring that disrupts the comfort of your current season. It may begin subtly, like a restlessness you can't quite explain, or like a shift in the atmosphere that makes the familiar feel strangely uncomfortable. The job you once loved suddenly feels like it's no longer fulfilling. The conversations that used to excite you now feel empty. Places where you once felt at ease begin to feel too small for the vision growing inside of you. This is not confusion. This is God gently but intentionally unsettling you because He knows you can't step into the next level while clinging to the comfort of the old. I remember walking through a season where everything that had once felt stable started to shake. Opportunities that were once abundant began to dry up. Routines that had always worked suddenly became ineffective. And in my human understanding, I thought something was going wrong. I questioned myself. I questioned my decisions. I even questioned God. But in that quiet place of prayer, I heard the Spirit whisper, I am making room for what's coming. That moment changed everything. I began to see the disruption not as a setback, but as a sacred signal that God was rearranging my life for something greater. When God is about to bless you in a way that will stretch and elevate you, He doesn't want you to be anchored in what's familiar. He wants you to be positioned for what's destined. So He begins to shake the foundations, not to harm you, but to prepare you. He will close doors that no longer serve your divine assignment. He will remove certain people, not out of cruelty, but because their presence might limit your growth in the next season. He will allow circumstances to become uncomfortable so that you are not tempted to settle in a place that was only meant to be temporary. This kind of divine disruption can be disorienting, especially when you've grown attached to the way things were. But God loves you too much to leave you in a space that no longer aligns with your destiny. So when things begin to shift, when the job changes unexpectedly, when friendships fade, when old patterns lose their power, don't panic. Don't assume you've missed something. Lean in. Ask God what He's preparing you for. That discomfort is often the spiritual equivalent of a contraction. It's a signal that something is about to be birthed. In these moments, God is not trying to punish you. He's trying to stretch your capacity. He's creating space for the new by removing what's expired. He's disrupting your comfort so that your spirit begins to seek, listen, and move toward the unfamiliar territory He's calling you into. And if you can embrace the disruption with faith instead of fear, you'll begin to see that this is not the end of something. It's the beginning of something extraordinary. The second sign you'll notice when God is preparing to give you something big is that your spiritual sensitivity begins to heighten. It's as if a divine frequency has been turned up inside of you, and suddenly what used to feel ordinary starts to carry extraordinary meaning. You find yourself waking up in the quiet hours of the night with an unusual urge to pray, and your spirit feels more alert, more aware, as though heaven itself is trying to get your attention. Passages of scripture you may have read dozens of times before suddenly leap off the page with revelation that pierces your heart. Messages, conversations, even random moments begin to carry a weight, a sense that God is speaking through them to guide you into the next season. This isn't imagination or coincidence. This is God fine, tuning your spiritual radar so you can detect His direction clearly. I've experienced seasons where the presence of God felt almost tangible, where a simple walk outside turned into a sacred conversation with the Holy Spirit. Dreams became vivid and layered with meaning. I would hear a sermon or overhear a line in a conversation, and it would feel like it was spoken directly to me. That's what happens when God is about to shift your life. He draws you closer, inviting you to hear His whispers before He manifests the promise. It's a sign that the next step is not going to be guided by logic alone, but by divine instruction, and so He sharpens your ability to discern. In this heightened state, you might start noticing subtle confirmations appearing repeatedly, a specific verse that keeps showing up, a phrase you can't shake, a theme that follows you from one situation to another. These are not random repetitions, they are spiritual breadcrumbs, leading you step by step toward the place God has prepared. It's in these moments that prayer feels more intense, worship feels more personal, and quiet time with God becomes more meaningful. You're no longer just talking to Him, you're hearing Him clearly and deeply. This sensitivity is crucial because when God is preparing to enlarge your territory, He often requires obedience to instructions that may not make sense to the natural mind. He might tell you to leave a comfortable situation, sow a seed, forgive someone you've held a grudge against, or take a step of faith that stretches you. Without spiritual sensitivity, these instructions can be missed, ignored, or dismissed. But when your spirit is alert, you recognize that even the smallest nudge carries divine weight. During these times, it's important to lean in rather than pull away. God is not only revealing more of Himself, He's training your ears to hear His voice for the journey ahead. He knows that the next level will require clarity, obedience, and unwavering trust. So He begins to draw you into a deeper intimacy, a place where distractions fade and your heart becomes aligned with His will. If you find yourself sensing things more intensely, don't dismiss it. This is the Spirit signaling that heaven is in motion, preparing to usher in something greater than you've experienced before. Another clear sign that God is about to release something significant into your life is the sudden increase in opposition and pressure. Just before a major breakthrough, it often feels like the battle intensifies from every direction. Unexpected obstacles appear. People who once supported you may turn distant or critical. Doors that seem to be opening suddenly look blocked. You may even start questioning your own strength, your decisions, or whether you heard God correctly in the first place. But this is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's evidence that you're getting closer to something powerful, something the enemy desperately wants to keep you from stepping into. Think about a woman in labor. The contractions grow strongest right before the baby is born. In the same way, spiritual pressure often peaks when you're on the verge of birthing something divine. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the more intense the resistance becomes because the enemy knows that once you step through that next door, his influence in that area of your life will be diminished. The spiritual opposition isn't meant to destroy you. It's designed to distract and discourage you so that you stop pushing just before the moment of release. I remember walking through a season where everything that could go wrong seemed to go wrong at once. Finances tightened unexpectedly. Relationships were strained, and things that had been smooth suddenly became chaotic. It felt like wave after wave crashing over me. But in the midst of that storm, I sensed a quiet assurance from God reminding me that pressure precedes promotion. What I was experiencing wasn't the end, it was the final stretch before the new season unfolded. When I held on in faith instead of giving in to fear, I began to see how every obstacle was actually sharpening my endurance and strengthening my spiritual muscles. In these moments, your emotions may tell you to quit, to retreat, or to doubt, but faith tells you to press forward because you're not fighting a losing battle. You're fighting for territory that belongs to your future. Opposition is often the enemy's last ditch effort to keep you locked in your current level. He knows he can't stop God's plan, so he tries to wear you down emotionally and mentally. But if you can recognize this season for what it is, you won't be shaken by the resistance. You'll be fueled by it. This increased pressure also exposes areas in your life that still need strengthening. It reveals how deeply your trust in God runs. It shows whether your faith is rooted in circumstances or in the unshakable word of God. When everything feels heavy and yet you choose to worship, to pray, and to stand firm, that's when spiritual maturity is forged. And it's in those fiery moments that your character is refined to carry the weight of the blessing God is preparing for you. So if the pressure has been mounting, don't interpret it as abandonment. Interpret it as evidence that heaven is moving, that the enemy is panicking, and that you are closer than ever to your divine moment. Keep pushing, keep believing. Breakthrough is often hidden just beyond the point, where most people give up when God is preparing to bring something big into your life. One of the most remarkable signs is the appearance of unusual opportunities and divine alignments. These are not ordinary moments of good luck. They are carefully orchestrated moves from heaven, aligning people, places, and timing in ways that go beyond human explanation. Suddenly, doors you didn't even knock on begin to swing open. People you never imagined meeting show up in your path at the exact right moment. Conversations happen that feel too intentional to be random. It's as if God is quietly arranging every piece of the puzzle behind the scenes, and then one by one, they start clicking into place. You might find yourself invited into rooms you never thought you'd enter. A mentor might appear unexpectedly, offering guidance that shifts your entire perspective. A business idea could suddenly attract resources or partners you didn't pursue. A delayed opportunity might suddenly resurface with greater favor than before. These alignments are heaven's fingerprints, evidence that God is setting the stage for the next level of your assignment. When He's ready to elevate you, He doesn't just prepare the blessing, He prepares the entire environment around you so that when you step into it, everything you need is already waiting. I've walked through seasons where doors opened that I didn't even have the courage to pray for. Opportunities arrived that were far beyond my qualifications. Relationships formed with people who carried exactly what I needed for the next phase. It wasn't because I maneuvered everything perfectly. It was because God's timing was unfolding. And when God is behind the alignment, things happen smoothly and suddenly. What would have taken years to build can happen in a moment when His favor is involved. It's not forced, it's fluid because God has gone before you to prepare the way. These divine alignments often catch you by surprise. You might receive a call you weren't expecting, run into someone by accident who becomes a key connection, or find that the right opportunity lands in your lap just as you were about to give up. These moments are not random coincidences. They are strategic placements designed by God to ensure that your destiny unfolds at the appointed time. He connects you to people who will unlock doors, speak life, or offer resources that align with the promise He placed within you. During these seasons, it's essential to stay spiritually alert and humble because divine opportunities sometimes arrive disguised in ordinary packages. A conversation that seems casual could be the beginning of something extraordinary. A small act of obedience, like showing up to a meeting, sending a message, or stepping out of your comfort zone, could trigger a chain reaction of blessings. God often tests our readiness by presenting alignments that require discernment and faith to embrace. And while these alignments are miraculous, they are never meant to make you passive. They are invitations to cooperate with God's plan. When you recognize that a door has opened by divine orchestration, your responsibility is to walk through it with boldness and obedience. Don't dismiss it because it feels unexpected or too good to be true. God's favor often places you in rooms where your resume didn't open the door, your purpose did. These moments reveal that heaven is not just responding to your prayers, it's actively setting the stage for the fulfillment of promises spoken over your life. Before God releases something monumental into your life, He always begins with inner transformation. This is one of the clearest and most profound signs that something big is on the horizon. God works from the inside out because He knows that if your inner world isn't ready, the blessing meant to elevate you could end up overwhelming you. So He starts refining your character, stretching your faith, and reshaping your mindset to prepare you to carry what He's about to entrust you with. You may notice yourself thinking differently, praying more deeply, and responding to challenges with a strength you didn't realize you had. What once would have shaken you no longer has the same power. It's not that life suddenly got easier, it's that you've grown. This transformation often happens quietly in seasons where no one else can fully see the work God is doing in you. You might find that old habits, fears, and attitudes begin to surface, not to shame you, but so God can heal and remove them. He begins to deal with pride, insecurity, doubt, or complacency because these things can't travel with you into the next season. He teaches you to trust Him more deeply, to depend on His voice above all others, and to anchor your identity in Him rather than in circumstances. This is why, during these times, your prayer life may intensify, your worship becomes more sincere, and your desire for His presence deepens. It's all part of the spiritual remodeling that prepares you for what's coming. I've walked through seasons where I didn't see external breakthroughs yet, but something within me was undeniably changing. I began to feel a quiet boldness replacing fear, a calm faith rising where anxiety used to live. My perspective shifted. I started speaking differently about my future, declaring promises instead of rehearsing problems. This kind of inner shift is not a small thing. It's a powerful indicator that God is aligning your internal atmosphere with the destiny He's about to release. The new season requires a new version of you, and God takes His time to develop that before unveiling what He has prepared. Inner transformation also brings with it an unshakable faith. This is not the shallow kind of faith that depends on good feelings or quick results. It's a deep, anchored trust that remains steady even when everything around you looks uncertain. It's the kind of faith that allows you to say, I don't see it yet, but I know it's coming. You start to carry a quiet confidence, not in your own ability, but in God's timing and power. Doubt doesn't disappear overnight, but it loses its grip as you keep choosing faith over fear. God often allows tests and waiting seasons to build this faith in you. Waiting is not wasted time, it's development time. He's teaching you to rely on His voice, to hold on to His promises, even when the evidence isn't visible yet. And when that transformation is complete, you'll realize that the blessing no longer feels intimidating. It feels natural because your spirit has been prepared to receive it. So, if lately you've sensed yourself changing, becoming more patient, more spiritually aware, more resilient, it's not random. God is molding you to fit the weight of the destiny He's about to place on your shoulders. He is strengthening your foundation so that when the blessing comes, you won't crumble under its weight. You'll thrive within it. Another powerful sign that God is preparing to release something big into your life is that you begin to feel an unusual sense of peace and assurance deep within, even when your external circumstances haven't changed yet. It's a quiet, unshakable knowing that something is shifting in the spiritual realm. While everything around you may still look uncertain, your heart starts to rest in a kind of divine confidence that cannot be explained by logic. This peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of God affirming that He is in control. It's as though your spirit knows something your eyes haven't seen yet, like a calm before the unveiling of a long awaited promise. This inner peace doesn't always arrive with trumpets or dramatic moments. It often comes softly during your prayer time in worship, or even in the midst of chaos. One day you realize that the anxiety you once carried has lifted. The fear that used to control your thoughts no longer has the same power. You start to trust God's timing in a way you hadn't before. It's not that you suddenly have all the answers, but you no longer feel desperate for them. There's a sense that you've handed over the steering wheel and you're content to let God drive, fully aware that He sees the road ahead more clearly than you do. I've walked through moments when on the outside, everything looked like it was falling apart, yet on the inside, I felt a stillness I couldn't explain. It was as if God had wrapped my soul in His hands and whispered, "Be still. I've got this." That kind of peace doesn't come from positive thinking. It comes from divine assurance. It's a sign that your spirit is aligning with God's plan and that you've crossed a threshold of trust where fear no longer dictates your reactions. When you carry that kind of peace, it confuses the enemy and even surprises people around you because your calm doesn't match the chaos. This assurance also shifts how you move. Instead of striving frantically to make things happen, you begin to walk with quiet confidence. Instead of worrying about every detail, you start preparing for what you know is coming. Your prayers become less about begging and more about thanking. Your language changes. You stop speaking doubt and start declaring faith-filled words. It's like something inside you has already seen the victory, even if the physical manifestation hasn't appeared yet. God often allows this peace to settle in right before a major shift because he wants you anchored when the transition happens. He doesn't want your emotions to be tossed by every wave, so he roots you in his presence, reminding you that his promises are secure. When you sense this kind of deep calm taking over, don't ignore it. It's not apathy, it's preparation. It's God strengthening your heart for the weight of the blessing, letting you know that no matter how things look, his plan is unfolding exactly as it should. This inner assurance is one of the clearest signals that breakthrough is near. Your spirit recognizes what your eyes can't yet see. You stop panicking, stop forcing, and start aligning because somewhere deep down, you know the season is about to change and God is getting ready to bring forth what he promised. The seventh and final sign that God is about to give you something big is that your expectation begins to rise in a way that feels undeniable. It's like a holy anticipation starts to build inside of you. Even if nothing externally has shifted yet, you can sense that something is on the brink of happening. You wake up with a renewed sense of purpose. Your prayers become more focused, your declarations become bolder, and your vision becomes sharper. There's a stirring in your spirit that refuses to settle for where you are because deep down you know something greater is coming. This isn't wishful thinking, it's faith maturing into confident expectation, the kind that attracts divine manifestation. You may catch yourself daydreaming about the promises God spoke to you long ago, not with frustration anymore, but with excitement. Words that were once just hopes start to feel like impending realities. You sense a spiritual acceleration, like the atmosphere around you is shifting. Even small signs or confirmations feel magnified because your spirit is tuned into heaven's movements. This growing expectation is often God's way of preparing your heart to receive what he's already prepared. Before he releases the promise, he plants a sense of anticipation inside you so that when the blessing arrives, you'll recognize it and step into it boldly, not timidly. I've experienced seasons when nothing in the natural world suggested that change was near, but internally, everything felt different. It was like standing at the edge of a new chapter with the pen in God's hand. My prayers shifted from, Lord, will you, to, Lord, thank you, because I know you will. That internal shift didn't happen overnight. It came from trusting his faithfulness in the waiting. And as my expectation grew, opportunities began to align, favor began to increase, and doors started opening that had remained shut for years. That's the power of spiritual expectation. It positions you to see and seize what God is releasing. When this sign is active in your life, doubt loses its authority. Fear no longer speaks the loudest. You stop entertaining the lies that tell you maybe it's not for you, or maybe it's too late, because something inside you rises up and says, my time is near. You start moving differently, not out of pride, but out of assurance. You prepare like someone who knows the guest is on the way. You clear space, make room, and align your life with the promise because expectation naturally pulls manifestation closer. This heightened sense of expectation isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. It's God's way of saying, get ready. He stirs your faith so that when the blessing arrives, you won't hesitate or second guess. You'll step into it with full confidence. If lately you've felt your spirit becoming more alert, your prayers intensifying, and your heart leaning forward toward the future, it's not accidental. That's God signaling that your season of waiting is turning into a season of receiving. The anticipation is not in vain. It's a prophetic indicator that something big is on its way when God is about to bring something monumental into your life. You'll notice a profound shift in the way people's circumstances and even times seem to align in your favor. It's as if the universe itself starts conspiring on your behalf. Synchronicities appear with increasing frequency, those coincidences that are too precise to be random. You might run into someone at exactly the right moment who delivers a word, connection, or opportunity that changes everything. Emails, calls, or messages you've been waiting on suddenly arrive just when you need them. Events you didn't plan for begin to intersect perfectly with your purpose. This alignment is no accident. It's heaven's way of orchestrating your breakthrough and preparing the way for your next season. In my own journey, I've watched how doors would unexpectedly open just as obstacles seemed insurmountable. A conversation with a stranger would reveal the exact solution I had been praying for. Opportunities would appear when there seemed to be no possible way forward. At first, I doubted these moments, thinking they were luck or coincidence, but over time I realized that God was moving strategically behind the scenes, aligning every detail to fit his plan for my life. What appeared as random events were actually carefully designed divine setups, placing me exactly where I needed to be to receive what was coming. These divine alignments are often subtle. They may come as a suggestion, a new connection, or an unexpected breakthrough in a project you had almost given up on. The key is to stay alert and responsive because the enemy loves to distract you in these moments, hoping you will miss the signal. When you recognize these alignments and act on them, you step into God's timing fully, moving from preparation into manifestation. Heaven rarely shouts its plans, it whispers, nudges, and arranges circumstances that require your spiritual awareness to recognize. This season of alignment also serves to increase your faith. You begin to see that the puzzle pieces of your life are not random and that God's hand is actively guiding your steps. You notice patterns forming, people showing up with exactly what you need, and resources flowing in just when they're required. It's in these moments that your faith shifts from hoping and praying to expecting and receiving. You no longer wait anxiously, but with a confident posture, knowing that heaven is orchestrating the exact conditions necessary for your breakthrough. When these alignments intensify, it's essential to act with obedience and discernment. God's favor doesn't work in a vacuum, it requires your participation, responding to opportunities, seizing moments, and trusting his guidance positions you to fully embrace what he is releasing. The right actions taken at the right time amplify the blessings and allow the divine alignment to fully manifest in your life. This alignment of people, time, and circumstances is one of the clearest signs that your season of breakthrough is imminent. Pay attention, move with intentionality, and trust the Spirit's leading. When God orchestrates alignment, he is not just opening doors, he is creating a pathway for you to step into your destiny. Recognize it, walk in it, and watch as what seemed impossible becomes not only possible but inevitable.